All right, let's just jump right in. Today, we're going through a full explainer on the fascinating science behind intermittent fasting, and specifically how it acts as a complete biological reboot for men. We're going to pop the hood and look at exactly what happens to your system when you stop eating around the clock, and how taking a break from food fundamentally rewires your entire hormone profile.
Seriously, take a second and think about it. Where did that wild, competitive drive actually go? It really feels like too many guys today have just completely forgotten what true primal energy even feels like. You absolutely shouldn't feel like you're constantly dragging a heavy, foggy body out of bed every single morning, just dreading the day ahead.
We are talking about a night and day difference here. Imagine waking up feeling like you literally have electricity in your veins, that sharp, dominant feeling of a biological system that is just humming along perfectly. Compare that to waking up feeling like you're underwater. That sluggish, heavy, caffeine-dependent reality with constant brain fog is what the modern man has somehow accepted as just normal. But it really doesn't have to be.
Okay, so let's get into Section 1, the modern energy crisis.
To figure out why we feel so bogged down, we have to tackle a massive fitness myth. You know the one. The idea that you need to eat every 3 hours just to keep your metabolism revving and your hormones optimized. We've all been told to eat breakfast, grab a snack, eat lunch, pound a protein shake, eat dinner, and then snack again before bed. But here's the reality. Constantly feeding your body actually stops your hormones from ever reaching their full potential. You're basically flooding your own engine, and it sinks your entire biological system into this state of chronic underlying stress.
And here's where it gets really interesting. It's all about insulin. When you're grazing all day long, your insulin stays elevated. And chronic insulin, it doesn't just make you store fat. It acts like this heavy, cold blanket thrown over your entire hormonal system. Most importantly, it actively sabotages the crucial communication lines between your brain and your testes.
Think about it this way. Your brain is desperately trying to send a signal downstairs to produce more testosterone. But, as this quote brilliantly points out, insulin acts like a huge bouncer wearing noise-canceling headphones, standing right in the middle of that conversation. The signal just never gets through. And look, no matter how many expensive zinc or ashwagandha supplements you pop, if that fundamental communication pathway is blocked by insulin, you are literally just rearranging deck chairs on a sinking ship.
Right, let's move on to Section 2, Surviving the Stress Valley.
So a lot of guys actually try fasting, but they bail way too early. They hit a wall, their energy crashes, their libido fades, and they panic. They think, well, this is a scam, my hormones are completely broken. But the truth, they just didn't wait long enough for the magic to happen. Let's map out this sort of biological hero's journey. You start with that initial shock around day 3. Then, right around day 5, you hit the absolute bottom of the stress valley. Your muscles might look flat, you're exhausted, and yes, your testosterone temporarily dips. But listen to me, you are not broken. This is a perfectly normal, necessary part of the process.
What's happening is a classic biological seesaw. When food suddenly becomes scarce, your adrenal glands panic a bit and pump out cortisol, your survival hormone. Because your ancient DNA prioritizes finding your next meal over, say, building massive biceps or reproducing, your testosterone has to take a temporary back seat. Your body is just smartly choosing survival alertness over reproduction.
The absolute key takeaway here is that this hunter's anxiety is a built-in feature, not a bug. It's exactly like a kitchen remodel. Before you can enjoy those gorgeous new countertops, you have to suffer through the incredibly chaotic demolition phase. Dust everywhere, hammering, missing drywall. The stress and that sudden hormonal drop, that's just your body's temporary demolition phase. Once you understand that, it changes the entire game.
Which brings us to Section 3, the biological reboot.
If you can just push through that valley, welcome to the other side. By weeks 2 through 4, the fog finally lifts. Your cortisol drops, the demolition crew goes home, and you're left with this stable, inexhaustible energy that doesn't rely on coffee or sugar. When you fast, you forcefully rip those noise-canceling headphones off that bouncer. Suddenly, your cells' androgen receptors wake up and become incredibly sensitive. So, even if a blood test says your total testosterone levels look about the same, a Virginia University study actually showed that your cell receptors become vastly more efficient at utilizing whatever testosterone you already have floating around. And here is where the results get kind of insane. 2,000%. That is not a typo. Research shows that after just 16 to 20 hours of fasting, the pituitary gland in your brain starts pumping out growth hormone, and it can spike by up to a staggering 2,000%.
You can think of these two hormones as the ultimate business partners. Testosterone is the visionary architect designing the muscle,
while growth hormone is the gritty construction worker actually building and protecting it. Even when you're in a caloric deficit, which normally eats away at muscle, this massive surge in growth hormone steps right in. It defends your hard-earned lean muscle mass and forces your body to burn stored body fat for fuel instead.
Plus, there's a massive secondary benefit involving a sneaky little enzyme called aromatase. Think of aromatase like a thief that sets up camp in your visceral belly fat. Its entire job is to steal your precious testosterone and convert it straight into estrogen. As fasting aggressively burns away that stubborn belly fat, it effectively evicts the thief and plugs the leak. The result? A much purer, far more potent hormonal balance.
All right, let's head into Section 4, Upgrading Body and Brain.
Let's look at how this builds into full physical and mental upgrades. And to do that, we have to address the ultimate nightmare for any guy trying fasting, the deep-seated fear that your muscles are just going to shrink and vanish if you aren't dripping protein into your system every 3 hours. Look, your body is smart. It isn't going to burn the living room furniture to heat the house when there's perfectly good firewood out back. Fasting triggers a state called autophagy, which literally translates to self-eating. It's this microscopic cellular cleaning process, so incredibly profound that it actually won the 2016 Nobel Prize in Medicine. Instead of burning valuable muscle, your body recycles waste.
Autophagy is basically a cellular cleanup crew. It goes in and aggressively recycles damaged proteins, aging cells, and dysfunctional mitochondria, using them as spare parts to build new, healthy structures. So if you notice yourself looking a little smaller in the mirror at first, don't panic. That size loss is just water weight and inflammation draining out from depleted glycogen stores. What gets revealed underneath is actually harder, vastly more refined, and sculpted muscle.
And the upgrades go way beyond just muscle. We're talking absolute predator upgrades here. Fasting ramps up your nitric oxide levels, which powerfully expands blood vessels, meaning much better plumbing and far stronger erections. Up in the brain, norepinephrine surges, throwing you into a laser-sharp hunt mode. Most importantly, it detoxes and resets your burnt-out dopamine receptors. Suddenly, food actually tastes better, your core motivation comes roaring back, and life just feels thrilling again.
Finally, Section 5, Achieving Metabolic Flexibility.
So how do we take all of this from just a trendy 30-day experiment and turn it into a lifelong strategy? Because that's the ultimate goal here, giving yourself the closest thing to an actual biological superpower. We're talking about metabolic flexibility. That is the incredibly liberating ability for your body to seamlessly switch from burning glucose from your meals straight over to burning stored body fat for fuel, and doing it without any panic, brain fog, or mid-afternoon energy crashes. Hitting this state completely frees you from being a slave to the vending machine or the clock. You get to age with this anti-fragile resilience, looking and feeling incredibly vibrant, while everyone else around you steadily declines into a state of medication dependency.
But getting there, it requires real discipline and a massive mindset shift. You have to realize that hunger is simply a wave of information. It's just an ancient signal tapping you on the shoulder. It is not a medical emergency that you need to immediately extinguish with a granola bar. Learning to just sit there and calmly ride out a 20-minute wave of hunger builds a profound sense of self-control. Mastering those impulses rather than letting them rule your life is really a fundamental mark of personal sovereignty.
There's this fantastic piece of philosophy from our source material that really sums it up perfectly. Fullness is life's blessing, but fasting is life's cleanse. A powerful, balanced life requires both sides of that coin. You need the rhythm of expansion and contraction. You absolutely need the joy of feasting and sharing abundance with the people you love, but you also need the strict discipline of pulling away, resting your system, and giving your body the space it desperately needs to purify and reset.
Which leaves us with one final question to wrap up this explainer. Are you ready to stop being a total slave to your refrigerator and finally take back your biological sovereignty? Because if this information clicked for you today and helped you find that missing piece of the puzzle, do us a favor. Share this knowledge with a buddy who is fighting a losing battle against brain fog, constant fatigue, and burnout right now. It might just be the exact reboot their life needs.